early childhood development. Each week we talk about a different stage of children development and what children need. And now, here comes your host.
Hello everybody and welcome. My name is Taryn and you are listening to The Parent Thing. So I was at a friend's house last week having a catch-up chat. I asked her how her summer vacation was going with the kids. Did they go anywhere fun? Did they do anything fun? And her response was, no. They are so boring. They don't want to go anywhere or do anything. All they have done is play on their iPads and watch TV. Even when I wanted to take them out for ice cream, they refused. They said I should go and just bring it back for them. Why are kids like that? She asked me. And then she answered her own question saying, actually, don't answer that. I know what you're going to say. You're going to tell me that it's because I've allowed it. So that brings me to today's topic. It's super touchy, I know, but we will be talking about screen time. Data from a National Institutes of Health study that began in 2018 indicates that children who spent more than 2 hours a day on screen time activities scored lower on language and thinking tests. And some children with more than 7 hours a day of screen time experienced thinning of the brain's cortex, the area behind the brain related to critical thinking and reasoning. Dr. Jennifer F. Cross, an attending pediatrician and a developmental and behavioral pediatrics expert at New York Presbyterian Kamansky Children's Hospital, says that if children spend most of their time engaging with an iPad, smartphone, or the television, all of which are highly entertaining, it can be hard to get them engaged in non-electronic activities, such as playing with toys to foster imagination and creativity, exploring outdoors, and playing with other children to develop age-appropriate social skills. Interacting almost exclusively with screens would be like working out only your arm muscles and nothing else. You would have really strong arm muscles, but at the expense of your overall fitness. I am by no means saying that the screen is all bad. It can be a very helpful and useful resource. I use it all the time in my classroom. The problem comes in when parents are dependent on the screen to keep the kids occupied and the kids become addicted, because that's what it is. It becomes an addiction. Essentially, what then happens is that the electronic devices raise the children and human interaction becomes limited. Studies have shown that children under 2 years of age should actually not be exposed to a screen at all. There are exceptions, of course, for video calls with distant family and friends. But even then, it's very rare to see a young child actually interact with the screen in the way the parents expect or hope they would interact. Some of you may be disagreeing with me, saying that your child loves the screen or that they concentrate for long periods of time and they only watch educational TV shows. But I would like to remind you that children actually learn by their surroundings and interactions. And I've spoken about this in great details, that children learn by what they see and what they hear. Young children, especially under the age of 2 years old, cannot relate what they are seeing on a screen to the world around them yet. And this explains why video chats aren't always what you want them to be, because they cannot yet relate the fact that people that are around me are the same people that are in the screen and I can talk to them. I hope my explanation makes sense. So my one sister has 2 sons, and when the older one was very young, I was living abroad, and now the second one is very young, and again, I'm living abroad, which means that video chats is really the only way I get to see my nephews. When they were both young, like under the age of 2, I'd get to see them, I'd get to call, and my sister would like walk around the house and follow them with what they're doing. But I never really got interaction, like them talking to me and telling me things and showing me things, until they hit 3. And the second one actually just turned 3 in June. And only now he's talking to me. Only now is he relating that I'm actually a real person that can talk back to him and have conversations with him. So it's only now that he actually knows who I am. And then, of course, the older one, when he turned 3 as well, it was the exact same thing. It was like magic happened when they could actually understand that I was a real person and that we could have real conversations. I read an article on a website called healthychildren.org where they were speaking about screen time, and the author actually said that children learn more from being in the kitchen banging pots while you cook than they do while having the TV on for the same amount of time. Because in that time, they are watching you, they can see what you're doing, they are learning real life things, and also you tend to speak to them more when they are around you. And when they are watching TV, there is less talking happening, so that affects speech development too. Let's talk about some problems that can occur later on in life when children are overexposed to or have too much screen time. The first thing, as I briefly mentioned, is a delay in speech. What happens when a child is exposed to too much TV is that there is no interaction, so it's just listening versus listening and talking and practicing speech and using words. So when they have too much screen time, there is a very huge possibility of a speech delay because they're not getting the opportunity to practice actually speaking. There is also a high likelihood of having concentration problems when they reach school age. While it may seem that when they are watching TV they are able to concentrate for long periods of time, you need to remember that there is multi-sensory things happening when they are watching the phone or the iPad or the TV. There are a whole lot of lights, there are a whole lot of colors, there is a whole lot of music, and so it's ever changing. So while they are engaged, there is no real concentration on one thing for prolonged periods as you may think, because everything's changing all the time. So they are not required to actually concentrate on one thing for a long period of time as they will be required to do in school. An overexposure to screen time can also create tunnel vision, so they're unable to focus all around them at one time. They will only be able to focus on one thing at a time. And I see this in my students as well. When I have something on the screen in my class, they get so engaged that when you call their name or you ask them a question, you have to call their name multiple times or actually turn the screen off to get their attention. And in school, it's not like that. Like, you need to be able to see what's happening around you as well as engage in your activity. So having tunnel vision will definitely affect their ability to perform at school. This tunnel vision also will affect their visual tracking, and so writing and reading becomes a problem. Because of tunnel vision, they are only focused on one thing, which is right ahead of them, and they don't have to look from side to side and track visually what is happening. So when it comes to reading and writing, it becomes a problem because they do struggle to track from left to right and then skip a line and go from left to right and move down to read or to write. Another issue that can be caused because of an overexposure to the screen is sleep trouble. Because they are overstimulated and their brains are overactive, it could lead to problems quieting down in the evenings when it is time to sleep. There is a myth that children should always be kept occupied and busy, and this is one of the reasons parents allow so much screen time. They don't want their children to get bored or to end up doing something that they shouldn't be doing. This is not true. Boredom is actually so beneficial for children, and let me tell you why. I read a quote by Dr. Vanessa Lapointe that says, "Children need to sit in their own boredom for the world to become quiet enough that they can hear themselves." And this is the first reason that boredom is so beneficial for children, is that they become self-aware. They actually get to know themselves because there's so little happening around them to distract them. They get to know who they are. They get to know what they like. They get to know what they enjoy doing in quiet times of boredom, because they actually, as the quote says, the world is then quiet enough for them to hear themselves. Boredom also is great for emotion regulation. There is no way to regulate your emotions other than to feel them. the good, the bad, and the ugly emotions. The only way to regulate them or to learn to regulate them is to actually go through the process of feeling it. And when they are bored, they actually go through the process of feeling their emotions and they learn to regulate their emotions that way. The journey of self-discovery also happens when a child is bored because they start daydreaming and start imagining. So the imagination is active and they get to know themselves that way. A study has even shown that if we can engage in some low-key, undemanding activity, the wandering mind is more likely to come up with imaginative ideas and creative solutions to problems. So it's in boredom that the imagination is activated, that creativity is activated, because there's so little going on around you that your mind actually, for lack of a better term, can talk to you. Boredom also helps children to understand that life is a process and things happen during this process versus always having instant gratification of everything happening instantly around them. At this point, dare I say that us adults need to reduce and limit screen time too. I do believe that, myself included, there are many adults that are addicted to the screen, addicted to our phones, and we don't have enough time to be bored. We don't have enough time to daydream and imagine and come up with solutions to problems. Dare I say that we need to limit screen times for ourselves as well as our children. I do know that screen time is inevitable. I am not trying to be unrealistic. So I'd like to make some suggestions around screen times. And the first one would be to limit screen time. When I au paired a few years ago, I would even have my kids earn their screen time. They were to read for a certain period of time and then be rewarded with a few minutes of screen time as a break. It wasn't that I made reading their punishment to get the reward afterwards. I modeled it too, and I know it's not always possible, but we all had reading time in the day. We all sat together, like we went in the basement and there was a little living area over there and we had reading time. And then on their break, if they chose screen time as what they're going to do for their break, then that's what they could do, but it definitely was limited. When you have younger children watching something, I would suggest that you don't let them watch something unsupervised. I would suggest that you watch it with them and interact with them while you are watching. Talk to them, ask them questions, point out things on the screen and show it to them in the real world to help them start making real life connections. When a song is playing, you can dance and do the actions with them and explain to them what you are doing. This aids in a few things. In language development, because you are talking to them, you are explaining things to them, you are showing them things around them that's practical, that they're seeing on the TV so that they can make that real life connection. So that helps them to understand the world around them. Their social skills are developed like this because they learn to interact with you. When they are interacting with you, it also alleviates tunnel vision because they're able to focus on the world around them, watching you dance, copying you, and not just zoning in on the screen only. And this aids in building their concentration. That brings us to the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. And I will see you back here next week. Have a wonderful week. Bye!
Thank you for tuning into the parenting. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you have any questions, feedback, or content suggestions, please email us at Taryn@theparenting.com. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, and give my aunt a 5-star rating.